There was once a young man named Rafi who worked as a helper in a small bakery. He wasn't the smartest, nor the fastest. In fact, people in his village called him half-awake Rafi because he was always lost in thought and often got things wrong. He would confuse salt for sugar, forget the change when delivering bread, or spill flour on the floor while smiling at the sunrise. Customers laughed. The baker scolded. But Rafi never got angry. He just bowed his head and said, "I'm learning. I'll do better tomorrow." One day, during a big village festival, the baker was preparing 100 loaves of special bread. He trusted Rafi with the final task, to mix the dough and set it aside to rise. But when the baker returned, he was furious. Rafi had forgotten to add the yeast. Without yeast, the bread wouldn't rise at all. The entire order was ruined. The baker shouted, "Why do you always make mistakes, Rafi? Can't you do anything right?" The whole kitchen echoed with laughter and disappointment. Rafi simply lowered his eyes and said, "I was thinking too much, sir. I truly am sorry." They threw out the dough and started over, just barely making the deadline. No one let Rafi touch anything after that. But that evening, something strange happened. As people gathered in the town square to eat and celebrate, a loud explosion shook the village. The bakery's chimney had burst, not from fire, but from gas. The heat had mixed with something unstable. The entire building collapsed in flames. People screamed, some were injured, but no one had been inside. Because earlier that day, the first batch of bread, the one Rafi ruined, had already been placed in the oven. If Rafi had done it right, if the yeast had been there, if the oven had been full and heating all day, the bakery would have exploded hours earlier while everyone was inside. The mistake saved their lives. The villagers stood in silence, and for the first time, no one laughed at Rafi. They just looked at the sky, the same sky he always smiled at, and let the truth settle like warm bread rising. The baker walked over quietly. He put a hand on Rafi's shoulder and said, "Maybe you weren't making mistakes. Maybe you were just on a different clock." Sometimes what looks like failure is just protection in disguise. Life doesn't always explain itself, but trust this: not every mistake is a punishment, and not every slow learner is lost. Some are just in sync with something we can't yet see.